guys, so today I wanted to do an update video on the Shark Wheels electric power skateboard. I've clocked over 140-ish miles on it, and so I have a pretty solid idea of some things that I like and dislike about it, and I wanted to share it because I realized we put out a review on this board within the first few weeks that we had it, and that should have been titled a first impressions, first ride video. How I want to go about future electric skateboard reviews is the first video is going to be unboxing, first impressions, and first ride. And then the second video is going to be like more in-depth review on it based on my experience clocking over 100 miles, having a few months of just riding the board. I feel like that's just the way to go about it with electric boards. A little disclaimer here, if you're into electric skateboards, you're new to the channel, I just want to let you guys know that I am not technical. I really am very new in the e-skate scene. Let's just start by going over some things that I noticed about the remote. The first thing being braking sensitivity. If you don't know, this was my first electric skateboard, and I was very thrown off by the sensitivity of the braking. I just felt like it was super aggressive. Now, I say felt because I'm pretty used to it by now. You can adjust to it. But I think in the future, maybe Shark Wheels should address that issue. It kind of just feels off. Now, the second thing that I noticed about this remote, and probably the most frustrating, was the battery level indicator. It just constantly fluctuates no matter if you have a full charge or not. For example, I'll charge this thing to 100%. I'll go riding, and it almost feels like within the first 5 to 10 minutes, it starts to fluctuate all the way down to a quarter, back up to full, back to half. And yeah, it's just super annoying. Like it's hard to tell. Like now that I have some experience with it, I know, okay, if there's a quarter left within the first 10 minutes, then that's actually full. But it just seems like the connectivity between the remote and the battery, I don't really know how it works, is off. All right, now moving on to the deck. Now, the deck is something that I really don't have an issue with, and I think they did a solid job here. The W-shaped concave, which isn't too aggressive, I think is perfect. It's enough to lock you in when you're going fast and you're carving, but it's not annoying for longer distances. The one thing I will say, now this is just personal preference, since electric skateboards are so heavy, and since the wheelbase is on the longer side for what I'm used to cruisers, it's not agile, which I know you don't really want especially for higher speeds on an electric skateboard. Just to have the ability to just do some like small pivots so I don't have to get off my board and then put it in a different direction and then hop back on, I think would be huge. There's not much flex at all to this. I weigh 160 pounds, and yeah, I think it's really solid. The one thing I will say about the deck is on the bottom, they have this graphic, which you guys know if you watched the first video, you know how I feel about the bottom graphic. Just kind of seems childish in my opinion. There are a lot of like chips and nicks in the graphic. Now, I realize it's very tough to avoid this. You can't avoid rocks and pebbles hitting up against the bottom of the board, especially when you're going fast and chipping the deck. But I almost would have preferred just a blank black deck without any paint. Now, something that I didn't test in the first video was the range. I'm gonna flash on the screen right now just all the specs of the range test. As you can see, I was able to get just about 15 miles before it died, but the more I research it, it really comes down to riding conditions. I live in a pretty hilly environment, so 15 miles I'm fine with. What I've been learning about electric skateboards, it seems that specs don't really mean that much because a bunch of different variables come into play, like your weight, are you riding up hills, what the temperature is. That's something that's kind of interesting to me and I still need to learn more about, but I still wanted to do some sort of range test to give you guys a reference point at least. Now, the last thing that I want to address is I found out that this is actually a collab between Team G and Shark Wheels. Now, Team G seems to be a well-known brand in the e-skate community. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty thrown off by that because, for instance, I'm new, I don't really know what board to get. I buy this thing and I'm like, oh sweet, like they're advertising this as the best of the best. Then to come to find out, like it looks almost identical to a board that Team G has that's $100, $200 cheaper. And so that right there, just the transparency I was kind of thrown off by. I'm kind of torn by this because I've had a bunch of fun times riding this thing and I'm still gonna be riding it. Like I really do love the board. Nothing has gone wrong with it yet, but just the fact that like they're not addressing that they're collaborating with Team G, is just like off-putting to me. Hope this video gave you guys a little more insight onto the Shark Wheels power electric skateboard based on my experience. If you have any questions, or if you have this board and want to share your experience with it, drop a comment below. Would really appreciate it. If you would also drop a like. You don't have to if you don't want, but it helps our channel out a ton. Anyway, guys, I'll see you in another video later.